everyone, and welcome to 19 o'clock news featuring me, that Kodocha girl, and Mahou Shoujo M. So today we are going to be discussing the episode The Promised Summer Part 1, which I'm very excited about. It's one of my favorite episodes. Actually, the two episodes combined are my favorite, but today we're just focusing on Part 1 and the corresponding manga chapter.
Yes, I'm really looking forward to this one as well. This is definitely one of my Kodocha comfort episodes, the two-parter anyway. So it's super fun to get to dive in and talk about it here.
So we start the episode off. It kind of goes into where we left off in the last episode. So the last one we saw was the one about Tsuyoshi, and it ends on a cliffhanger where Akito asks Sana about her dad, and we're left wondering, oh, what's she going to tell us in the next episode? And we find out absolutely nothing at the beginning of the episode. She basically says, I know so much about your family, but you'll know about mine soon. Don't worry about it. And Akito's just like, I need to figure this girl out.
Yeah, so maybe unpopular opinion, but I'm not a huge fan of this little anime change right off the bat. The you'll find out soon enough. Very ominous, like great for an answer to a cliffhanger moment. But also, if you look at the manga chunk, like she doesn't know that Misako is planning on like publishing the book yet. And then like I think she says later, like, oh, I had a hunch you were working on it or something. I'm like, hunch my ass. Like it just felt weird to me, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like
It's
I kind
funny
of
as
liked the casual way the manga did it, where she was just like, oh, I just don't have a dad. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I think there's good qualities in both, but I was literally about to say I think I prefer the anime version because
Interesting.
I love the drama about it because that was kind of one of those things that like got me really hooked on the series was like, oh, I want to find out what's going on with Sana. Like it made me more interested in what's going on with her, and how they did it in the source material was fine. It's like you said, it has that more realistic feel, but I think for making us want to know more about her, like that was a great way to get us really interested in the book and, her backstory.
I hear what you're saying, and I think I still just sort of disagree because I think that, after her conversation with Misako and she's so off and so sad, like that, I think already kind of sparks curiosity. 'Cause we're kind of almost looking through Akito's eyes in those scenes where it's like, okay, well, why is she acting weird? And I think that that accomplishes the same end. But, um,
Mhm.
I respect your opinion and politely disagree.
And it's also presented a bit differently in the manga as well because Ray is present and he
Yes.
basically tells Akito like don't bring that up, you know. And another thing I noticed too is that it's and I think we might have brought it up in the last episode, but it's that whole section there about her dad is like it's kind of in the middle of that whole Tsuyoshi arc about his family, and it's not that whole question and conversation is not until after that situation in the anime. I thought that was kind of interesting. And that's another change that I thought was good because it shifts the focus better in the anime, in my opinion, onto that. I think having that change made the story flow better.
I yeah, I can see that. I think like it's difficult for me as somebody who really would have preferred in many ways that the anime take the manga and just do what they did. But yes, I hear you because it is kind of an interruption in the Tsuyoshi episode, and I don't mind it being where it is, especially with Kodocha, which I think is almost famous in some ways for its incredible cliffhangers. Like that's a good spot for it. And actually, you know what? As I'm talking aloud, I do think I do kind of agree with that because it is a nice like having that placing that conversation there is a nice like prelude to Misako and Sana's conversation and then everything else
Mhm.
that happens in the episode. So yeah, I hear you. I agree.
So there was something interesting I noticed in this conversation when they kind of move away from the dad question. And this is a Japanese English dub sub difference. So in the English dub, they're talking about going on a field trip over the summer, but in the Japanese sub, she calls it outdoor school. And I
Hmm.
tried doing some research on this, but I couldn't really find anything super concrete. Like it basically what I found was in Japan, they basically do summer camp like they do here. And that was the only thing I could find related to outdoor school. Did you catch that by any chance?
I did peek at it, but decided I had other translation fixations this week, so I didn't touch that one. But you're right, because I think they call it camping. I think they refer to it as camping in the Tokyopop translation, outdoor school in the subtitled anime, and then yeah, what did they call it in the English again? Oh, just like a field trip,
Hmm.
which I think because that concept of going somewhere overnight with your school is not super common in the US, field trip might have been, I think, Funimation's attempt at choosing something that people might understand a bit better. But I don't know what the original word is, and I didn't look it up, but I can do a little research there and pop it in the description
Oh
so you guys
yeah,
can take a peek at that later.
I think that'd be really interesting because I was sitting there like when I first saw that because I'd never actually watched that episode subbed. I don't think I can't remember, but it kind of caught me off guard. I was like, "What is that? I've never heard of that before."
Yeah, no, that's definitely fair. It's interesting because it is something that comes up in at least a lot of shoujo series. Cardcaptor Sakura has like a camping overnight small arc. Is that the only
I,
one?
I think I've
No,
seen
there's
AMVs of that art. Never
yeah,
actually
it's
watched
a
that series, but I've watched a
oh,
lot of AMVs of it.
it is a fantastic episode. Definitely one of my favorite arcs from the early chunk of that series. Definitely a great one. So yes, you probably have seen clips from it.
So,
Um,
a side note, I actually found the first volume of Cardcaptor Sakura at this little secondhand store in my area, and it was really cheap. And so I was like, when I saw it, I was like, this can't be only, I think it was only like $10 or $15. Like this looks like something that like if I look it up online, it's gonna be like 50. And it was. And so I grabbed it. And I'm very excited to read it. I just haven't had the time, but I'll be reading
well,
that soon.
please, you have Cardcaptor Sakura is my second favorite series after Kodocha. It's I have a tattoo of it. Like I love
That's
Cardcaptor
awesome.
Sakura. Like I freaking love that series. So I really hope that you enjoy it when you read it. Sakura is very important to me. Um,
I will probably never get a tattoo. I've thought about it before, but like I was like, if I ever do, like it would probably be Zelda or Kodocha. But then I was like, what Kodocha thing though could I get a tattoo of? Like, there's not really
truly
any symbols.
the I've thought about this extensively because yeah, you're right. There's not really a ton by way of like quotes or like or symbols really. The only thing I've considered is like a very because my tattoos are not big. The my card captor Sakura one is very small. But I'm thinking like quarter sized the mallet. Maybe like the one from the logo with the two little stars. I've thought about
Hmm.
that somewhere, but I don't know where I'd put it. That's the other thing. My card captor Sakura one's on my wrist. She has her invincible spell, as they call it. I'm sure I'll
Hmm.
be all right, and so I have that on my wrist.
Nice.
Um, but yeah, but Kodocha tattoos. Yeah, I've thought about this a lot actually because I it feels weird to have it not represented if I'm going to be representing animes on my body. I want a
Yeah.
Kodocha one.
And
But I
I'd
just like
probably
I
like
can't decide.
if I ever got a tattoo, it would probably be very small too. Like I definitely wouldn't want to be those like or I definitely wouldn't be one of those people that was like really into that. But like, I like to have, that representation, like you said. And I would
Uh,
want to represent that of all things. And like I said, like if I do get a tattoo, like most likely it would probably be Zelda as well. Like if I couldn't figure out Kodocha, it'd be like a Triforce or
yeah,
something like that.
it's fair. Honestly, like I my artist, she pretty much only does anime and manga themed tattoos, and like she'll do like manga panels on people's wherever's. They're really, really cool and good. Like it's just really neat to see what's kind of happening in the anime tattoo community.
That's really cool.
Like
I didn't know there were people who specialized in anime tattoos.
Oh,
That's awesome.
100%. Just in my area, there's like probably four or five. But yeah, like I have so many silly anime tattoo ideas that I'm probably never going to do. But anytime somebody says like once you get one, you start wanting more, that's real. That's real. Like I don't know
Yeah,
why.
I was
It's
actually
weird.
talking to my husband about this the other day because he has like 6 or 7 tattoos. He's like really into it, but he like has a lot of like more like he's very into like spiritual stuff, and like he's got some nerdy
Mm.
tattoos too. He's got a Star Wars tattoo and a World of Warcraft tattoo. And like he said that he's like it's almost like a form of therapy when you go and get a tattoo.
Yeah, yeah, for me, like I picked mine and the placement just because like I over the course of my over 18 years of deeply loving Cardcaptor Sakura, um, I have often kind of come back to that, like, I'm sure I'll be all right. Everything will be all right. It's translated a myriad of ways.
Mhm.
Zetai Daijobu Daio. And it's always kind of brought me comfort. Like if this 10-year-old who is dealing with big magic far beyond her years will be all right, surely me and my emails and my bills and paperwork will also be all right.
I get
So
it. I get it.
it's like you with your world ending apocalypse, me and my emails, it's the same. Um, but oh yeah, I've also thought about if I was a person who had like very strong like bicep muscles, I would totally do like on my inner arm, like Sailor Venus's like sword. That'd be really cool. But
I agree.
but I don't have super muscular arms, so I'm probably not going to do that. Oh man, I took us way off topic with that one. Glad you found that Cardcaptor Sakura manga. Please read it and tell me what
Thank
you
you.
think.
Thank you. I
And
will.
yay,
I've
anime
seen 2
tattoos.
episodes of the anime. I like it, but it hasn't really hooked me yet. But I'm
That's
gonna stick
fair.
with it.
The anime is really cute, but it's a little bit stretched out. It's a 90s show. So I think she captures like 15 more cards in the anime than she does in the manga. The manga's, I think, paced a little better, but the
I
anime is really
figured.
good. Once you get into the second arc of that series, it is chef's kiss. And then Clear Card, the sequel, is so good. So okay, I digress. Kodocha.
So, going back to the episode, so we talked about how they're going to be going on a field trip, or they're going to outdoor school or camping or whatever you like to call it. And this is, I think, where we're introduced to Miss Ondo and her cracking makeup.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So, fun facts about Ando Sensei. She is voiced in the English version by Julie Mayfield, who played Misako in the first few episodes of the Kodocha dub before Colleen Clinkenbeard came in
Wow.
to play Misako. So she's so
Wow.
a little fun fact.
As a Kodocha fan, how did I not know that?
I didn't either until because I recognized her voice and I was like, okay, why do I recognize her voice? Oh, she also plays Ritsu's mom, the proprietress of the Soma hot springs in Fruits Basket. So that was one. And then she also plays Shiori in Yu Yu Hakusho. I thought you might know who that character was. I don't,
What's
but
what's the name of the character again?
Shiori?
I've only seen the series once, and I've only seen like the one of the arcs like 3 times. I've watched one particular arc 3 times,
Is it the
but
Dark Tournament arc?
I don't remember that character.
I don't either. I read probably the first like half of the manga 15 years ago, and I've seen mostly the Dark Tournament arc and the first few episodes of the series, but I've never watched it all the way through myself. It's on my list. I'll get to it. It's just long.
Oh yeah, it's crazy because my husband introduced me to that anime, and he had never seen past the Dark Tournament arc. and we watched it together. Like I first saw it with him, and he first saw the rest of it with me. And we got to the chapter Black arc that's after the Dark Tournament, and it was like, wow, like we did not think that anything would top the Dark Tournament, but the chapter Black arc did, and it is probably my favorite shonen arc of all time. It's amazing.
Wow. Noted. I really do want to. It's funny because I have this like brief experience with it, and so my husband's watched the first episode, and he's like, okay, I could watch the rest of this. So it's on our list to get through together at some point, but we just haven't. I'm looking forward to watching it because I love the characters and have for
Yeah,
a long time. Like
it's fantastic, and I feel like that arc too that I just mentioned has one of the best shonen villains too. Very very
ooh,
complex character, and
okay,
I really liked what they did with him. And like I kind of understood, like I love those villains where you can kind of understand where they're coming from.
yeah,
But back to Misako,
yeah,
I can't know the difference in the voice. Do you?
yeah. Not really. I don't think I would have known if I hadn't looked it up. But it's I think I only like could really I think like if I put this episode because where Misako actually speaks a fair amount next to the pilot where I think she has significantly fewer lines, I might notice it more, but like over the course of just watching the series, I don't think I would have noticed unless I looked it up.
Yeah,
Isn't that
I
wild?
it is because I for the longest time I was like calling Klinkenbeer, that's Mama, that's Misako.
Yep. Isn't that wild? So
Yeah.
there you go, Julie Mayfield. But yes, first time meeting Ando Sensei, a very interesting character.
Yeah, honestly, every time she shows up, I know it's going to be a wild time, and it
Always.
makes me happy.
Yeah, they really can't do an Ando Sensei without doing the limbo stuff. Like even in later filler and stuff, they're just like, is now a good time for some limbo?
And her crush on Zenjiro.
I love her crush on Zenjiro. It is my favorite thing. I like it better than the limboing, TBH. Like
I think I do too, just because it's so like why
it's so out
it's such
there.
a creepy, weird pairing.
I love it. That is like the crack ship of dreams. And it's not even a crack ship because it is in some ways canon. I love it. I also like speaking of the teachers, Miss Mitsuya in her cute little like turtlenecky top and her pants and her hair. I'm like, she is giving such 90s like Monica Geller friends cuteness in this episode. I love her outfit.
Oh yeah.
So
So
Ando
one,
Sensei. Ooh, what?
yep. Go. I was going to bring up a weird difference that I noticed in this particular section of the episode.
Ooh, I wonder if
Um,
it's the same thing I was going to notice. Okay, tell me, tell me.
Maybe. So they're on the bus going to the I think they're going mountain first. I can't remember. Like Tsuyoshi, like it's either Tsuyoshi or Hisei like explains where they're going exactly.
Yes.
But like
Yes, yes.
and they show kind of a shot of like the bus and everybody's chitter chattering and like I wonder why they changed this. Like maybe it was just easier for them to say this, but like they're talking about snacks that they have on the bus. And I think it's like Gomi or one of the boys is like, I have in the Japanese version, he's like, I have sashimi, but in the English, they change it to tofu for some reason.
Hmm.
Did you notice that?
I actually didn't pick up on that, but that is interesting. I wonder if they were just like, people know what tofu is. Do people maybe not know what sashimi is in 2006 when they were doing this? I don't know.
Yeah, dubbing is was so weird. I think the industry's getting better at like actually putting in the what they're actually saying in there, like and just giving that cultural explanation like in a subtitle. But
Oh,
like
for sure.
it's just so irritating because especially if you're a kid because I still and I hate to admit this but I still sometimes see a rice ball and think about a donut because of four kids.
But my mom brought jelly donuts. Yeah. I'm totally with you. I agree. I think it's they really I think seemed very convinced that people would not be willing to accept or understand the cultural differences at that time. And I'm glad that I think fandoms everywhere have proven that wrong and that they have moved away from that. But especially in the Saturday morning cartoon era, gee willikers, they really just went hard with the gotta change stuff. Like, and I remember when they were doing Mew Mew Power, the Tokyo Mew Mew kids version for kids, like, and they were changing like animation, like they were turning chopsticks into spoons and stuff because they were dead convinced people weren't gonna
Oh,
pick
I
up on
can't
or understand.
stand that
Oh yeah, and
because
like they were,
I was introduced to the original version first, and then
yeah.
like when I went to try and watch that, it was like, oh my goodness, like what is happening?
Oh yeah. Well, it was interesting because like I think they had announced Mew Mew Power, but it wasn't like airing yet. And so I like went to my little internet to find things out about it, and I found the Cafe Mew Mew forums, which if you were on the Cafe Mew Mew forums in 2004, it's time for an eye cream. And
I know nothing about this, but go on.
good for you. It was a message board for Tokyo Mew Mew fans, and each week, actually, the people would take the Mew Mew Power episode, compare it to the Tokyo Mew Mew episode, and pull the differences. And that was really where I first got my first eye-opening look at what all got changed when they would bring things over. Like it was stuff like, you know, Zakuro wears a cross necklace for the series. They would change it into a stick because they were like, cannot put religion on for kids TV, I guess. I don't know, it was weird stuff like that. The spoons, cleavage, etc. Lots of animation changes with that one, so it was a different time.
Yeah, very dark time.
Yes, I do not disagree. But yeah, the only, oh, I would rewind a little bit to just before they get on the bus. Something that I picked up on in the Japanese version is Tsuyoshi is back to calling Aya-chan by her last name.
Hmm.
So he's back to calling her Sugita, which I said, hey. So he was Sugita, Aya, back to Sugita. I'm sure he'll be back to Aya next episode. Maybe it was just like a little thing they overlooked, but I thought it was interesting.
I think when I was going through my series 2 watch through, like I don't think I noticed him calling her by her last name ever in that. So I think
Oh
he just
yeah.
kind of fades out over time.
Oh, I don't even know if it necessarily, you know, fades. Like I'm pretty sure by next episode he'll be back to Aya-chan all the time again. I think it might have just been a weird holdover or something. I don't know. I don't know why, but it was something I noticed, so I brought it up. But back to the bus. My note in terms of general observation and plot for that scene is I love Akito giving Sana shit for not knowing where they're going, and then he's like, "Hey, how long are we going to be gone?"
Yeah, that was
Um,
a cute moment.
yeah, my note is literally, "They're idiots, but they're my idiots." So
And I also love that part when he takes the picture of her when she's all sad and he's like caught you
yes,
looking stupid. It's like
yeah.
why can't you just communicate how you really feel, boy? Come on.
Oh, communicate. If Sana and Akito were capable of communicating, the series would be significantly shorter.
Yeah, no,
Like,
there's no fun in that.
exactly. I'm like the junior high arc wouldn't even exist. It would be a happy time. So instead of the most painful thing I've ever experienced. But it's fine. We're fine. On the bus, you know, Sana dancing, singing, being crazy. She has her "don't make me sing" moment. Proceeds to entertain everybody very well, and then they arrive at the campsite.
hmm
And something I noticed in the English translation is I just also love that translations everywhere, nobody totally knows how to translate "itadakimasu," which I guess in the most literal of senses is just like, let's eat. So it's always funny to me to see how they choose to approach it because everybody does it differently. Like across mangas and series and animes and subtitles, and like everybody chooses to, and dubs chooses to do "itadakimasu" in a different way, and it just always tickles me.
That's
um
interesting.
yeah, and I think in this one it was like, "Yay, food, let's eat," or something like that, but I was like, all right, sure, like close enough. It's a lot of syllables for a very literal translation, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I always appreciate these translation changes that you find because I've never actually studied Japanese before, so I probably should. It's just like, where do I find the time to do all this?
Yeah,
But
you're a little busy.
yeah. But I've always wanted to, but it's like I just really appreciate that too. And I was actually thinking about this earlier today. is one thing I appreciate that you do on your daily Kodocha blog is when you go through the differences in the Japanese and English versions of the manga, because I can read subtitles and you can notice the changes there easier, but with the manga, like I would literally need to like snap a picture of it and like use some kind of app to translate it, you know? I can't just be like, "Oh, I know what this means." Like you're actually studying it, and I have a lot of respect for that. I think that's really cool that you're putting in that work there.
That is incredibly kind of you, and I really appreciate it. It's I have to say, like studying Japanese has been one of the most challenging and also like strangely fulfilling things I've gotten to do in the last few years. It's especially like not being in school anymore. It's been really nice to have something to kind of challenge my brain, you know. So I've had a lot of fun with it. And it's been a lot of fun to, especially, you know, going kind of more carefully through those later volumes for some of my writing projects. Like, you know, I read the official translation, I read the fan translation, and if something isn't lining up between the two of those, then I go to the Japanese and see what it says. And sometimes it's just like a phrase that's kind of hard to translate. Sometimes Tokyopop gets it right, sometimes the fans get it right. You know, it's
Mhm.
because especially since Japanese is such a like conceptual language in a way, like, and there's also just like meaning can be layered based on how something is written. It's
Mhm.
been really interesting going through. And Kodocha is certainly no exception to that, how the way that things are written, Obana definitely has some meaning loaded into that as well. So it's been really fun. So, but I'm glad that it's good and interesting. I have a couple of those lined up for the future.
Nice.
Some
Yeah,
comparing and
I look forward to
contrasting.
those. Like every time I see it, it's always like an aha moment for me. Like, oh wow, like that's really cool, and I would have never have caught on to that. And I like to know those differences because how it was actually written is how it, is supposed to be. I don't know if I'm being clear right now in what I'm saying, but
Yeah,
I like to know what the actual meaning is, and sometimes things get lost in translation and
oh
of a
for
series
sure.
I'm so passionate about, like I want to know like the true meaning behind how they're saying this. And sometimes I think it was a translation you did. This was maybe last month. It was for that segment in the later manga when they're going on their date and they're like ice skating.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it was, but I remember
Yeah,
I
it's is it when
favorited
Akito is
it.
like it's the did Akito not hate Fuka the way that he doesn't hate Sana?
Yeah, that was it. And
Yeah.
I thought that was really like I was really glad you pointed that out because
Yeah.
I felt like it really helped not just me, but I feel like it helped other people kind of understand that whole relationship and how he felt about it. And help fans understand better about where he was at with that.
Yes, I completely agree. I'm really glad that that one was a really fun one to uncover because I do think that because in English we have kind of like a different word for everything, and each of those words has like can have multiple definitions, but typically means one thing in context. People get very hung up on the semantics of translation when translation is very much an art, and how somebody chooses to translate something or localize something, you know, isn't necessarily going to it can feel different in English, I guess is the best way to say it. So
Hmm.
I think Tokyopop actually did a great job with that particular scene. But like the fan translation was very literally like correct, but there's alternative definitions, and you also have to compare it to the way that things are written because each kanji has kind of an alternative or has a layer of context that goes with it. So,
Hmm.
and Akito is a really interesting character too in Japanese, like because he uses they're like Obana uses katakana to write for him very frequently, which is interesting, and I'm not sure why. I don't think I understand enough yet to really get into the why of that, but it is important to note when he does that versus when he is using kanji, because it can have different meanings. So
Yeah,
um
if you look more into that, we should totally talk about that on the podcast because I
oh for
think that would
sure.
be that would be something really interesting to unpack on one of our episodes.
Yeah, I would definitely love to. I need to understand a little bit more soon. And I mean, I've been studying hard for like a year and a half, like, and I've been studying off and on for years, but like really putting focus into it over the course of the last year and a half. And, you know, I know more than I did 6 months ago. That I'm sure in another 6 months I'll know even more. It's one of those things where I'm going to be studying Japanese probably for the rest of my life if I want to continue to get proficient.
That's
Um,
fun.
and I'm glad it is an undertaking, like, but I'm happy to be doing it, and I'm glad that it's been interesting at the very least, especially for some of those concepts that just don't quite translate because of cultural pieces. Always fun
Mhm.
to get into those. So
So once, we get into the field trip and they've all had their food and they've all gone to bed. So there's a scene where uh Sana goes to the bathroom and she runs into Akito and he's about to ask her, or not ask her, he's about to tell her what I feel was one of the best lines in the series, but they are interrupted by all the teachers partying and having karaoke in the other room.
honestly, just an iconic scene. I do think I do kind of like that in the manga. It's Tsuyoshi and Akito are sitting up at a table, and then they like see her going down the hallway to the bathroom, and then Akito kind of appears behind her. Um,
Yeah, but in the anime, like they make him like a
just
creepy
cuts to,
stalker.
yeah. It was nice to have that little piece of context for like, oh, they were already up, saw her passing by, decided to see what's up, as opposed
Yeah,
to just
I
like appearing.
I thought that was much better in the manga too because it made it feel more. I know like the anime tries to be kind of goofy and cartoony, but like, that for context is nice. As small as it is, it
Oh
would have
yeah.
been nice to have that little moment there in the anime as well.
Oh, completely agree. I also think it's so funny that like Akito's like, okay, Tsuyoshi, I'm gonna go check on Sana. Doesn't return. Poor Tsuyoshi's just sitting up at that table while Sana and Akito are eating the teacher's sushi.
Oh, he's
Tsuyoshi's,
fine. He
I
he
know he's
ships
fine.
them.
I know. I just think it's funny. I'm like, they should have gone back to get Tsuyoshi at least so he could also enjoy sushi. But that's
So
okay.
so this particular scene actually has one of those moments that like literally makes me laugh out loud. And I love how weird and random it is. But like basically Miss Ando's talking about like how they're bad, they're delinquents, and
Yeah.
there's rumors about how they're bad kids. And then she says something like, "Oh, they're always doing obscene and adult things." And I can't remember who asks. I think it might have been Akito. He's like what? And then she's about to say something, and then it bleeps what it was. And
Uh-huh.
then like they actually acknowledge the bleep. Like Akito's like, "Sorry, I couldn't hear you over the bleep."
Yeah. I liked that too. I thought that was a very funny, cute device to use. And also just funny, like, because I think it's a good example of like the end result of like rumors traveling weird. I'm sure that that's the game of telephone with the fruit juice soaked first kiss from episode 8 has turned into Ando Sensei thinking that
They're doing really
they're
inappropriate
doing
things for their
they're doing
age.
adult things. 11-year-olds doing adult things. I don't want to. Nope. We're not going there. X. Nope. My hands are in an X formation. But yes, I thought that was funny too. I love that scene too with, I don't know, the principal, Naru, who is, says something kind of profound and then it's just like, haha, just kidding. It'll be fine. I love that.
Yeah. Or
Um,
they think he's like mad because he like slams his hand down the table
oh,
and
the
he's just
mosquito thing.
getting a
Yes.
yeah.
It was
You
so
know,
good.
this was a really well balanced episode. Like it had a lot of really hilarious moments, but it also had some really great romantic moments too. I felt like this is definitely, I mean, I kind of put these two episodes together, part one and part two.
Yes.
Um, but I really feel like this particular section of the anime is like where it really balances the comedy and drama of the series like the best.
Yes, I completely agree. I love these two episodes. And that conversation at the bottom of the cliff is very important to me.
We do have the limbo scene where she tries to get under the milk.
Oh my gosh. Yes. That was something that like this is another example of like the anime just like on like just pulling the the lid off of the unhinged can. Like it's like why is the child's toy crew here? Why are we limboing? What's happening?
But yeah,
Uh
if we can move on to the cliff. But I just want to bring that up because
oh
again,
yeah.
it just one of those I
Limbo.
literally laugh out loud every time.
I
That might
know.
be one of the because I think it's probably the craziest moment in the whole series. I think it is. I
Ooh.
that or the later episode filler about the Hayama's mom is a robot. That was pretty
Hmm.
wild.
That one like limboing could exist in this universe. The robot mom is a little different, but yes, I completely agree. Limboing is crazy, and you know it's funny that this didn't come up in our anime manga differences episode last month, but you're right. That is definitely an addition that is funny. I mean, I'm smiling. I can't help it.
Yeah.
It's good.
I do like
Uh,
how it comes back in the Christmas episode too when she's
oh,
chasing after Zenjiro and like
it's
the well we'll talk about that when we get to that episode.
yes, I
So
love it.
moving on to one of the best scenes in the whole series is when they fall down the cliff and they have their talk.
Yes, I
So
love the dub choice too. I think they translated it as like I was gonna catch a firefly, but then the cliff caught me, which excellent choice. Which I think the actual quote is something like I was gonna catch a firefly, but then I fell off a cliff or something like. But then the cliff caught me was funny and cute. So nice
mhm.
job, English dub.
And then she has that line too in the English version where they fall down and she looks at Akito and she's like, "We must be two bees in a pod." And he's like, "You mean peas?"
I love it. I love that our girl cannot get one single phrase right.
Never.
Yes, I agree. I love that. I love the scene at the bottom of the cliff. I love that, Akito notices how she's feeling and especially, when Sana talks about kind of having to stay cheerful all the time because it kind of freaks people out, when she's not, that resonated with me a lot because as somebody who is generally more upbeat and extroverted, like have if it's like I'm not even like sad, I'm just like a neutral. People are like, what's wrong? All the
Mhm.
time. This is real. Can confirm this happens in life. And it makes me kind of crazy. And it makes you feel like you can't be anything but kind of upbeat and happy all the time. So that one hit me really hard.
Yeah, and I was just about to say I also found that line to be very relatable. And I'm definitely not, I wouldn't say I'm a cheery person in real life. I'm very quiet. I try to kind of stay out of people's vision, like just don't look at me, like let me do my
Uh-huh.
thing. But like with people I'm close to, definitely relate to that. Like because usually, if I feel comfortable around you, you'll usually see me in a good mood because I'm a generally happy person. I feel like I have my really sad moments, but when it comes out and like when people see it, it's like it can be kind of jarring for people, I think, that are close to me. So it's like, what's wrong? Like, this is kind of weird. Like, and people don't really know how to handle that. And sometimes it almost makes you feel worse, you know?
Yes, 100%. Especially like if it's something where it's just like, I don't know, just like that feeling of like feeling misunderstood, I guess, where it's like you don't even necessarily have to be sad. It's just like if you're not happy, people make assumptions, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Or not even
Hmm.
if you're not happy, but just like if you're feeling kind of like zen or neutral or not up, people make assumptions, which is really frustrating. So yeah, sweet Sana, I see you, girly.
Yeah.
And something I noticed in the dub version that I thought was really interesting also is that you know, they took out her kind of inner monologue while her and Akito are having their conversation, where,
Hmm.
I
I
think
noticed that too.
yeah, where she's talking about how like nobody's ever really asked her how she feels before, which I have to say I was a little disappointed that they couldn't find a way to keep that in because I think it's
That's
really
also in
telling
the
about Sana's friends. Yeah,
yeah.
and it's also in the manga too.
Mhm.
I think like okay, if nobody's ever asked Sana how she is feeling before, then like yikes, friends, like we got some
Yeah,
work
I
to do.
mean, honestly, like when I've watched the series, like I just get the impression that she has friends, but she doesn't really have any close friends. Does that make
Mm,
sense?
yes, 100%, which is why like, within I think she's already describing Akito as her best friend at this stage in the series, or if not now, then very soon that becomes his introductory paragraph at the beginning of each episode.
Yeah.
Former lone wolf, my BFF, etc. And maybe some of that does come from this, where nobody else noticed, he noticed.
And I think it's also a testament to how caring he is too and how protective he is over her.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that really shows in this episode as, how he's able to pick up on that and he cares. Like it matters to him that she's down and he wants her to be able to feel comfortable with him to express that and feel safe with him to, talk about things that she's more vulnerable about. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I completely agree. I also love that chunk where, he is kind of like thanking her for what she's done for his family and
Hmm.
stuff. And she's like, I didn't do anything. And he's like, oh my God, you don't even know like
Yeah.
what you have done.
There was another thing that I noticed this is just a little itty bitty thing in the manga that I noticed that I thought was cute, which I don't know how they would have added it in the anime, but in some of the pages in this section of the story, you can find the Obana owl. Have you noticed it?
Yes, I did. I loved the Obana owl. I was actually thinking as I was looking through the art that I was like, I should scan this and just like keep Obana owl out there for things. I don't know. She's funny to me. I love the Obana owl. The only other manga note I have is there's actually a small misprint in the Tokyopop translation on page 57 of the volume slash page 21 of the chapter, depending on how you're reading it. There's like a very small panel of them hiking when Sana is kind of writing to Misako and wondering about how the book is going. And and it's the night after the sushi party with the teachers. And so Miss Mitsuya and the dude whose name I can never friggin' remember. What's his name? Starts with a T.
Tanaka?
Tanaka.
I
So
think
yeah,
I see it
so
right here. I have it open here.
yeah,
I think I
so
know what you're
it
talking
has
about. Go ahead.
it says sleepy pointing to them and then hungover pointing to Akito, and that's a misprint. I verified it
Oh
because I was
yeah.
like they are hungover and Akito is sleepy. So small misprint, but I did look it
Yeah.
up because I was like, oh my god, did he drink while he was hanging out with them? No. No,
I
he did
mean,
not.
he's got that rebellious spirit, so
It does. Well, it's funny. The only reason I even clocked it or like looked it up is because I'm, working through volume 10 right now. And in the chapter where Sana decides to sneak a little bit of Misako's booze, he's like, I already tried that when I was 5. It's out of my system already. And so I was like, I didn't think I think if he had done it again at that time, like it would have come up
Mhm.
in that chapter, if that makes sense. So, and
Yeah.
because it didn't, I said, wait a freaking second. I don't think so. Also,
Oh yeah.
just random, but the backgrounds for this episode in the anime, really lovely background work, I think.
Hmm.
And this episode has just an absolute ton of 19 o'clock news in the background for music.
Yeah, I noticed that. I think I was actually trying to remember, and I didn't feel like popping out my old Funimation DVD, but I don't think that was in. I think they took that out of their release because I don't remember it being in the
Oh,
background because
oh,
they couldn't
interesting.
use it. They didn't have the rights to that song.
Yeah, and it's funny because generally speaking, the Blu-ray dub version has kept pretty much whatever Funimation had done. And I don't remember what they replaced it with, if anything, come to think of it. I wrote down that note about the 19 o'clock news when I was watching the Japanese version. So I don't know. How
Yeah, it
interesting.
was the music was in both the versions on the new Blu-ray.
Oh, really? Okay.
So I don't know, I don't know how they did it. But again, like I maybe if I'm feeling up to it, I'll go and just check my Funimation DVD and see if it's in there. But I just don't think it was. I think they either replaced the music or it was just the dialogue. I don't know.
Ah, that is interesting. I had wondered if maybe they kept it in just because, like, the version of 19 o'clock news, it's one of the ones that doesn't really sound like 19 o'clock news that much.
Hmm.
Not as obvious as like the slowed down version that they play over Tsuyoshi's tears in the previous episode.
Hmm.
At least I don't
Which
think
they
so.
forgot to cut out of the
They
Funimation version.
did, yes. Which a mystery. But yeah, I thought that was interesting. Or because that version's not on any of the soundtracks, I wonder if they were able to keep it in because of that. I don't know. I'm spitballing. I understand nothing about like music and business arrangements. I'm just
Yeah,
curious.
I feel like if it would be used in any kind of product that they're selling, then it would be at
Yeah,
risk.
fair
Um,
enough.
that's for the CD thing. There's a lot of tracks that I've noticed. Other versions of like Always Be With You that I've heard in there that aren't on any of the soundtracks that I've just been
Mm,
like, okay, we need a fourth CD now.
yeah, I
Not that that's
agree.
going to probably happen anytime soon, but I do think there's a lot of unreleased songs that need to be like actually put out there, and be able to listen to whether it's on streaming or available for purchase somewhere.
Gosh, what a dream it would be to be able to like really stream anything from before like 2005 in terms of anime music. Like
Yeah.
a lot of that stuff's not even available on iTunes. You can't even purchase the
Hmm.
track. That gets tough sometimes. Or like,
Hmm.
yeah. Ah, that's a rant for a different time. I'm glad that I feel like newer series soundtracks are a lot easier to track down and listen to legally these days than they used to be. But
Hmm.
me and my LimeWire account in middle school, we did a fair amount of.
That's a blast from the past.
Oh yeah, I was like, I put on my eye patch. I had a hook for a hand, and I stole a few things. Um, so
We all
at
did.
like
Don't worry about
in
it.
horrific quality, which I still have some of that stuff on my phone. And like if I'm listening to music in my car with my husband, he'll be like, "Did you pirate that one?" I'm like, maybe, because the quality will just be like horrific because I downloaded it in like the smallest file type possible because I had, 3 gigs of space on my computer. It was a different time.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I used to collect CDs. I'm definitely a music nerd and I used to have a big CD collection. Unfortunately, I lost a lot of that when I moved. And
Tragic.
so I broke down and now I'm a slave to Spotify. So
It's tough times. It's tough times.
it is. And Spotify's fine. It's doable, but there's still a lot of music on there and not just like anime or gaming music that I like, but there's so much music that's obscure like from the 90s and before that's just not on there and it irritates me and it's like I really wish this album would be on here. And of course we have, like Nintendo music. Like Nintendo just is very stubborn about releasing their music and
Oh, I know. They make me crazy with that because, like, all I want to do is listen to the Wave Race 64 soundtrack all day while I work, and I cannot.
I get it.
Thank
I
you.
get your pain. I want to
Yeah.
sit here and blast some Zelda tunes from Spotify without commercials, but I have to just go to YouTube and suffer through commercials.
Oh, literally me. I listen to video game music probably all day, typically Nintendo video game music while I am working, because then I can pretend that I'm, a little Animal Crossing villager just doing my little tasks through my work
I get
day,
it.
and that helps get me through. So I listen to like the Animal Crossing GameCube soundtrack.
I love those soundtracks. I'm an Animal Crossing nerd for
Oh,
sure. I
same.
have
Yeah.
I have over 1,000 hours on Horizon.
Oh man. I fell off this last year. I think like through 2022, I think I had like 800 hours or something. I've just picked it up again for the first time in months. Because I was like, I miss my little island and my little animal friends. So
I get it. I haven't been playing because of the new Zelda game, but
Of
I've
course.
pretty much been playing almost every day since it came out in 2020.
Yeah, it's honestly same because and before that I was playing New Leaf, and I have a GameCube Animal Crossing Town that's been running for now 20 years. That's not an exaggeration. I started it in 2003, and I still check up on it every couple of months, pick
That's
some
awesome.
weeds, check in on my villagers that I've had since I was in the fifth grade. Is real. I still do
No,
that.
I totally get it. I unfortunately that was another thing I lost when I moved, but
Oh,
I
that's so
I
sad.
think I started that island when I was in fifth grade. So yeah. It
Oh,
would be about 20 years old now too, my island.
oh, it's so funny. I had lost the memory card that island was on for probably like 6, 8 years or something. I found it in college and was like, let's boot up this guy. And I'll have to find the screenshot for you of first I went to go see like the closest villager to me, and it was like, it's been like 3,656 days. And I was like, oh, gee.
Right. I've seen like
Well,
people like booting up their old islands like on YouTube and they always show that, that villager number.
oh, yeah. I love it. I think it's funny. It's been 34 weeks or whatever it is.
Well,
Oh my
this has
gosh.
been this has been a wild episode of 19 o'clock
It
news
has. We
today.
are super focused today. Do you have any other notes for this chapter? I have like 2 notes for this chapter, and then I'll probably be good.
Let me just check over this here. Um, no, I don't have anything. I just have basic story things, but I've covered everything interesting. What else did you have?
The only other things I had were the anime made me giggle when Akito is on the bus with Sana and he's like, "Hey, my dad got out of the hospital." He says to say thanks, and she's like, "Oh, please, the relationship between me and your dad is far too close for that." That really just tickled me
Oh,
so much, and not just because I'm a Fuyuki super fan. So that one made me laugh. And then the only other note I had was for Principal Naru Naru, is voiced by, in the English version, Christopher Sabat, who has many, 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 many shonen credits and in long running series. But I thought it'd be interesting to point out that he plays Piccolo and Vegeta in Dragon Ball. And
wow.
so, big role. And then also is the voice of Ayame Soma from Fruits Basket in the grand tradition of everybody in Kodocha also being on Fruits Basket. So,
Nice. That's funny because I think he was at the con I went to.
oh yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Oh wow.
I
That
did I
he
didn't know
has
he did the voice of Naru though.
Yes, he has been working for ever. I get like honestly, like scrolling through his. I just picked a couple of roles to mention in this episode, but like he has is a very prolific voice actor and has a lot of really interesting and cool roles that he's worked on. So,
Yeah, he definitely has range if he's going from Naru to Vegeta.
yeah, and IMA like
Yeah, that's another completely
it's
different
just
personality.
yes, like, and I love IMA Soma, because he is a sweet flamboyant angel, much like myself. Uh,
I know we talked about like we had this like private conversation about like fruit
oh,
spastic characters that we were like, and you said I remember you said that that's who you were, and I was like, well, I'm your younger brother. I'm Yuki for sure.
oh, for sure. Well, it's actually like I don't know if I necessarily think I'm a lot like IMA, but I was having that conversation with my husband where we were like, what Fruits Basket character do we think that each of us are more like? And without skipping a beat, he's just like IMA, and I was like, I wasn't sure if I should be proud, offended, confused. Like it was just such an immediate reaction. It's like,
I'll be
jeez.
honest. Every time I
Okay.
see that character now, I think of you
Aww. That's
because of that conversation.
that's fair. So you feel like you're more of a Yuki.
Yeah, on the day to day. I don't know if my internet persona conveys that, but yeah.
See it? I could see it. I feel like if I do some like inner like I want to be more of a Toru. I admire her so much. I don't think that's who I am at all as a person. I think I'm probably closer to like an Uo or like a Manabe kind of character, like just a bit
Mhm.
more. perhaps not quite as like flamboyant and over the top as IMA, but still just generally high energy, teasing character. That's a question. What Kodocha character do you think you are most like?
That's so funny. I was just about to say, let's end with that question today.
Yeah.
Um, well, honestly, like I always used to tell like my husband that like Sana's like the extroverted version of me because I really do relate to her a lot. She's just way more outgoing than I could ever be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because I feel like I deal with a lot of tense situations in a similar way, and I can be kind of dense sometimes. Like how she always like gets confused about like phrases or how things work. Like I
Uh-huh.
admit that sometimes like I can be a little dense in that way, and it's kind of embarrassing to admit, but I can be. I can be a little. It's hard for me to catch on to things sometimes. And I don't know if this is because I have autism, but that might be why. I don't know.
Hmm.
But I guess if it's not her, the other character I probably relate to a lot actually might be Tsuyoshi. Um,
Hmm.
because, you know, for the most part, he's a pretty chill character until, you know, he gets set off by something and then he just kind of goes crazy. Sometimes I can be like that, like if I'm chill, but then like something just really bothers me and I just am like, I'm screaming, I'm crying. So I guess, yeah, probably Tsuyoshi for me. What about you?
Hmm. It's funny because, the question was asked very last minute. And so I've truly not given it a lot of thought before. Like, as much as I love Kodocha, I've never really like put myself in Sana's shoes necessarily, like as deeply as I love her. And I think like when I first met the series when I was in middle school, being a little bit more hyperactive at that time, just based on being around that age. I think I saw more of myself in Sana, but as I've gotten older, I don't think that's necessarily true as much. And so I'm having a hard time, but now Zumi did come to mind for me just because like I also am a crybaby and can't eat spicy things. But but and then the other person that came to mind was honestly like Fuka a little bit, just because she is, still high energy, not as high energy as Sana, can be a little bit more combative, and can be a little bit more aggressive. But then I like to think one of her good qualities is that, if somebody kind of, if she's presented with more information, then she can change her mind, which I think is something that I, you know, am a little bit more like. So I don't know. It's something to think about for sure. I think we could probably like do this question again in 6 months after we've like really given it some thought and see if our answers have changed.
Yeah, I think that would be a fun thing to do.
Yeah,
Just
just out of
honestly,
curiosity.
sitting here, it's like I feel like I can see a little bit of myself in all the characters. But
Yeah.
like I said, I honestly, what drew me to the series was just Sana and like how much I could relate to her. And again, not really her personality so much, it's more how she deals with things is very similar to me. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really what drew me in with her character was because I've been in her shoes before. I've dealt with struggles very similar to hers, so
Mm-hmm.
I get it. You know, I don't understand, of course, like I was never like abandoned or have foster parents or anything like that, but like I could understand like her pain and just like her conflict when it comes to like her parental figures, I guess. Like I can relate to that and I can relate to just having difficulties with dealing with that, especially in and I'm not going to give spoilers here, but the later chapters of the manga when we get into the doll syndrome, which I'm not going to really
Mm-hmm.
elaborate on here, but I could
Yeah.
relate to that.
Yeah. No, it's definitely fair. And, thank you for sharing some of those innermost feelings too. She's a wonderful character and I adore her. I know we've talked a little bit, I know we've offlined a little bit about the Enneagram and just like other personality assessment, you know, motivation assessment tools and things, but I sort of feel like Sana is an Enneagram 7, which is like the motivation is just like the need to avoid pain, which I think we see
Mm-hmm.
with her running so often away from things that are upsetting to her and trying to
Mm-hmm.
reframe things positively, even if they are not so good
Mm-hmm.
over the course of the series. If anybody's curious about the Enneagram
But
and Kodocha and the Enneagram, holla, because I can talk about it all day. I've thought about it a lot.
yeah, maybe link a article about it in the description.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I'll do that.
But yeah, do you have any closing thoughts about the episode? I know we pretty much talked very in depth about that and in depth about a lot of other things today.
We sure did. Today was an in-depth day. No, I don't think I have anything else. It was just a really good episode. I really like this one a lot, and I'm excited to get into the next part
Yeah, me too, because
with you.
I think I prefer the part two opposed to part one, but they're both, like I said, they're in my head, I kind of combine them as one thing. But if I had to choose, part two is definitely one I'm really looking forward to talking about next month.
Oh, for sure. Part two has some of my favorite quotes in the series, like just some
Mhm.
really good moments happen in this next chunk, which I'm looking
All
forward
right.
to.
Well, with that, I guess we're signing off.
Have a good day. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to 19 O'Clock News, a Kodocha podcast.
19 O'Clock News is hosted by that Kodocha girl and Mahou Shoujo M.
We love making new friends. Feel free to join us in the Kodocha Discord under Kodocha_media.
19 O'Clock News is not affiliated with any current or previous rights holders to Kodomo no Omocha by Miho Obana.